The city was still asleep, but Ava Hayes was not. The sky still carried the ink-gray bruises of the night before, and the last drops of rain clung to the rusted railings of the old apartment block. The cold air slipped through her thin coat, but Ava was used to it. The cold, like her invisibility, had long been part of her life. She carefully placed a small lunchbox for Grace into the worn school bag, next to a polished apple. Grace, her little 7-year-old angel, was still fast asleep, her face peaceful under the faint golden light. For that smile, Ava could walk through any storm. She kissed her sister's forehead and whispered, "I'm off to work, Angel, the Tew." Road to Crownville Towers was long and wet. Ava walked quickly, dodging puddles, her old shoes nearly giving up. In her handbag, aside from a pair of rubber gloves, there was only a piece of stale bread for breakfast. She didn't complain. She just kept her head up. Being late was not an option. As she turned onto the boulevard, a roar shattered the silence. A pearl-white SUV came speeding down the road like a predator. Ava moved to the side, but too late. Its wheels sliced through. A deep puddle. Splash. A wall of muddy water slammed into her. It was freezing, filthy, and humiliating. Mud clung to her hair, her face soaking through the freshly washed uniform she'd stayed up all night scrubbing. The SUV didn't stop. Instead, the tinted window slid down, revealing a woman with blood-red lips and oversized sunglasses. "Next time, try standing somewhere else, honey," Blair Sinclair sneered, her laughter sharp as a blade before the car roared away. Ava froze, trembling from cold and rage. A hot tear rolled down her cheek, cutting a clean line through the grime. But only one tear. She took a deep breath, picked up her filthy bag, and kept walking. She didn't know that across the street, in a sleek black sedan with no plates, a pair of eyes had witnessed everything. Damien Hawthorne set his tablet down. He wasn't looking at the billions flashing across the screen anymore. He was watching the reflection of the small, unyielding girl in his car window. He saw the flinch, the humiliation, and then the quiet strength as she pushed forward. He had seen Blair Sinclair's cruelty, the daughter of a business partner he'd never liked. But what he truly saw was Ava's dignity. Untouchable, unstained. He picked up his phone. His voice was low, cold. "Find out everything about the girl Blair Sinclair just drenched on Crownville Boulevard. I want to know it all." Ava arrived at work like a ghost dragged out of the storm. Mr. Finch, the manager, scowled. "You're late, Hayes. And look at you. Like you just crawled out of a sewer." "I'm sorry, there was a car." "I don't need excuses," he snapped. "Get changed and get to work. The VIP floor better shine like glass before the guests arrive." Ava lowered her head and slipped into the locker room. A few pitying glances, a few head shakes, but no words, no help. She changed into her backup uniform, older but clean. As she pushed the heavy cleaning cart down the marble hallways, she told herself she was fine. But inside, her heart was bleeding. The next morning, something strange happened. In her locker, there was a small paper bag. Inside, a warm bacon sandwich, a brand new pair of gloves, and a neatly written note. "For the girl who works with Grace, even when the world is cruel." Ava froze. "Who?" She looked around, but everyone seemed busy. For the first time in a long while, a real smile touched her lips. From the top office of the building across the street, Damien watched her through a security feed he had legal access to. He saw her smile, and an unfamiliar warmth spread through his chest. He whispered, "Small steps." But trouble wasn't done with Ava. Her sudden transfer to the VIP floor, after she'd been cleared from a minor incident, orchestrated by Damien without her knowing, sparked envy. Deborah, a longtime employee, became convinced Ava had used underhanded tricks. Then came the breaking point. One afternoon, a high-profile guest slipped in the VIP lounge. The floor was unusually slick. Mr. Finch stormed over, face blazing. "Who cleaned this area?" He barked. Every eye turned to Ava. Deborah stepped forward, her voice dripping with fake sympathy. "It was Ava, sir. She just finished her shift here." I cleaned carefully," Ava stammered, pale with shock. "Carefully? That guest could?" "Sue us for millions!" Finch roared, Hayes, you're fired! Ava's heart stopped. Fired? What about Grace? The rent? The ground beneath her seemed to collapse. Just then, the executive elevator opened. Damien Hawthorne stepped out, not in casual attire, but in a perfectly tailored suit. Authority radiated from him, silencing the entire lounge. He walked straight to Finch without glancing at anyone else. "What's going on, Mr. Finch?" His voice was calm, yet commanding. "Mr. Hawthorne, we were just addressing an incident." Damien's eyes flicked to the trembling Ava, then back. "I want to see the surveillance footage from this hallway. The last hour, now." Finch swallowed, hard, and barked an order. Minutes later, the truth glowed on the tablet screen. The footage showed Deborah, after Ava had finished, deliberately pouring an oil-based polish onto the floor. The lounge went silent. Deborah's face turned ghost white. Damien's voice was ice. "You were about to fire your best employee on baseless accusations, and the real saboteur is standing right here." He turned to Ava, his gaze softening slightly. "Ms. Hayes, I apologize for what you've endured." Then, back to Finch. "Ms. Hayes will be promoted to VIP floor supervisor starting tomorrow, and I want Ms. Deborah out of this building within 10 minutes. Shock rippled through the room. A supervisor? By Hawthorne's direct order? Ava stared at him, her eyes full of confusion, gratitude, and unspoken questions. Damien gave her the slightest nod before turning away, leaving behind a storm of whispers. Ava knew then, her life would never be the same. Three months passed, and Ava's life had transformed dramatically. The supervisor position didn't just mean better pay, it meant respect. She could finally buy Grace new clothes, and their small apartment now always smelled of hot meals. She and Damien had also started seeing each other. He wasn't some distant savior, but a warm, thoughtful man who saw the real her beneath the uniform. They often dined on the rooftop of a quiet restaurant where no one recognized him. He told her about his mother, once an immigrant worker who had taught him dignity and resilience. Ava realized he didn't help her out of pity. He helped her because he saw his mother in her. But when the light shines, shadows awaken. One afternoon, as Ava waited for Grace outside school, a familiar, chilling figure appeared at the gate. Gaunt, hollow-eyed, with the sly look she would never forget. Mitch Donovan, her father, the man who had abandoned them when her mother fell gravely ill, never to return. "Ava, my girl," he said, voice dripping with false sweetness. "I've been looking everywhere for you." Her heart turned to ice. "You're not my father. What do you want?" "I heard you're doing pretty well for yourself," Mitch sneered, glancing at the luxury car waiting for her down the street. "Dating a billionaire, huh? My daughter's really made it." "Leave," Ava said, her voice trembling. "Don't ever come near Grace." "She's my kid too," he smirked. "Family's supposed to help each other out. I've hit a rough patch." "Rough patch?" Ava laughed bitterly. "Do you even know what that means? It's Mom working 3 jobs just to pay for her medicine. It's me dropping out of school to take care of her. Where were you then?" Mitch faltered. Shame flickered across his face before quickly hardening into anger. "Don't lecture me. You think you're better than everyone else just because you snagged some rich guy? You're still my daughter." Ava pulled Grace's trembling hand and walked past him. "You have nothing here." That rejection planted a seed of hatred in Mitch. He knew he couldn't sway Ava, but he could destroy what she had. And he knew exactly who to partner with. The meeting between Mitch and Blair Sinclair took place in an upscale cafe. Blair, still, reeling from the quiet scandal of the mud incident that had cost her several lucrative contracts, nursed her bitterness toward Ava. "She turned me down," Mitch said. "Thinks she's a queen now." Blair sipped her tea, smiling coldly. "Cinderella, our little darling. But even Cinderella has a past, doesn't she?" We don't need to drag her down. We just need the world to see where she really came from, and the media storm began. The first article appeared on a tabloid blog. The truth behind the fairy tale. Cinderella abandoned her struggling father. It featured a photo of Mitch looking frail, pitiful, paired with fabricated quotes about how Ava had supposedly changed after money came into her life. Ava crumbled. Whispers spread again at work. Worse, Grace came home with tear-streaked eyes. They said you're a bad person, that you left your dad. Ava hugged her tightly, her heart shattering. Damien stood by her, throwing every resource into quelling the rumors, but it was like a wildfire, spreading, smoldering, unstoppable. Then Blair and Mitch struck their cruelest blow. A sensational headline exploded. Shocking secret of the Hayes family. What did Cinderella's mother do to support her daughter? The article hinted, maliciously, falsely, about Ava's mother's past. That was the last straw. Her mother had been a pure, selfless woman who sacrificed everything for her children. This slander was unbearable. That night, Ava sat in the dark, shaking, tears streaming endlessly. When Damien arrived, she looked at him, voice breaking. I can't do this anymore, Damien. I'm dragging you and Grace into the mud with me. Maybe we should stop. Damien looked into her, despairing eyes. He said nothing, just held her tightly. The next morning, he did something he had never done before. He called a press conference. Standing before dozens of cameras, he didn't speak about business. He spoke about Ava. The world loves fairy tales, but it hates real Cinderellas, he declared, his voice firm. They judge her origins, dig into her past because they can't accept that dignity isn't measured by a bank account. Ava Hayes is the strongest, most honorable, and most compassionate woman I have ever known. Anyone who attacks her is attacking me. His words shook the press and the city. It wasn't just a defense, it was a declaration of war. That evening, Ava received a call from an unknown number. Blair. I didn't know your father was that insane, Blair admitted, her voice unsteady. He's planning to release fake photos. I don't want to be part of this anymore. Meet me. When they met, Blair handed Ava a USB drive. Inside were recordings of every conversation she'd had with Mitch. Their plans, their schemes, undeniable evidence. Why? Ava asked, still wary. Blair looked away. Because my mother was humiliated once too, and I don't want to become the kind of person she despised. She turned to leave. Use it to protect yourself. Ava held the USB, a strange feeling rising inside her. Her greatest enemy had just handed her the weapon to end the war. She knew this wasn't just the close of a storm. It was the beginning of something far greater within herself. With Blair's evidence in hand, Damien's legal team swiftly crushed the rumors. Mitch Donovan vanished without a trace, and Blair Sinclair quietly withdrew from the spotlight. Peace returned, but something within Ava had changed forever. She was no longer the timid girl who once hid in the shadows. She had walked through fire and come out steel. Together, she and Damien launched the Future of Hospitality Project, a scholarship and training program for underprivileged youth. Ava became the soul of the initiative. They were now a power couple, not just in love, but in business. Ava stood beside Damien in boardrooms, her voice respected, her opinions valued. She had found her place, her voice, her strength. But fate wasn't finished testing her. During a high-stakes meeting with international investors, Damien suddenly went pale. His hand clutched at his chest. His breath grew shallow. Before anyone could react, he collapsed across the table. Chaos erupted. Sirens, the rush to the hospital, the diagnosis, a massive stroke from exhaustion. Damien slipped into a coma. Ava's world shattered again. The man who had been her anchor now lay still, behind the cold glass of an ICU window. But she had no time to fall apart. Hawthorne Corporation was floundering without its leader. Billion-dollar contracts hung in jeopardy. The board was panicking. And worst of all, Gavin Pierce, CEO of Fairgate International, Hawthorne's lifelong rival, circled like a shark that had smelled blood. The board convened an emergency meeting. Ava, authorized by Damien in several projects, was present. She wore a simple black dress, her expression steady, almost frighteningly so. "Miss Hayes," one board member said, his tone patronizing, "we're deeply sorry about Mr. Hawthorne's condition. But the company cannot wait. We need an experienced leader." "I'll take the helm," Ava said softly, but her voice carried such weight that no one dared interrupt. The room buzzed with disbelief. Another member sneered, "With respect, you have no executive background. Your origins?" Ava rose from her chair, meeting every gaze in the room. "You're right. I don't have a Harvard MBA. I wasn't born into privilege. My experience comes from scrubbing floors until my hands bled, from 16-hour shifts, from calculating every penny to raise my sister. I understand our employees better than anyone here. I know what our customers want, because I once served them myself. This empire was built on service and people. And in that, I am the expert." Silence fell. For the first time, they didn't see Cinderella. They saw a queen, but her greatest test was yet to come. The Hawthorne Annual Charity Gala, the most crucial event of the year. Canceling it would signal weakness. Ava decided it would go on. That night, she appeared in a regal sapphire gown, elegant yet understated. Every eye in the ballroom turned to her. Gavin Pierce was there too, prowling the crowd with a smug smile, whispering rumors of Hawthorne's downfall. When Ava stepped onto the stage, the hall fell silent. She held no notes. She spoke from the heart. "Tonight there is an empty chair," she began, her voice trembling, but strong. "The chair of Damien Hawthorne, a man who didn't just build an empire, he built hope. He taught me that the true value of a company isn't in numbers, but in the lives it uplifts. Tonight, I stand here not as his replacement, but as the keeper of his vision." Then she announced the expansion of the Future of Hospitality project, doubling its scholarship fund, financed directly from the previous quarter's profits. "We will not simply weather this storm," Ava declared. "We will set sail through it, stronger than ever." Thunderous applause shook the room. Investors nodded in approval. Gavin's smile curdled, but he wasn't finished. Minutes later, phones buzzed across the ballroom. Internal leak, Hawthorne on verge of bankruptcy. Charity project a cover-up? Panic rippled through the crowd. The perfect ambush, but Ava had anticipated this. Blair, now working as an independent PR consultant, had warned her. Ava drew a deep breath and returned to the microphone. "I know. Many of you just received alarming news. Here's the truth. Yes, our company is facing challenges, but transparency is our strength." She gestured, and a massive screen lit up with Hawthorne's real financials. Simplified, crystal clear. "We are not collapsing. We are fighting, and we will not lie to you. Any investor who wishes to verify this data, our doors open tomorrow morning." The bold honesty, the raw transparency, destroyed Gavin's plot in an instant. That night, Ava didn't just save a gala. She saved an empire. She stepped off the stage no longer protected by anyone. She was the storm. After the gala, Ava's position within Hawthorne was solidified. She worked tirelessly, running the company by day, caring for Damien by night. Then, one afternoon, as she read reports aloud at his bedside, his hand twitched. Damien woke, weak, but sharp. The first words he whispered when he saw her were, "You did it." His return brought stability, but both of them knew. Things had changed. Ava was no longer the woman who needed shelter. They were equals now. Partners. Meanwhile, Gavin Pierce, humiliated and desperate, made one last reckless move. He tracked down Mitch Donovan, drowning in debt, and made him an offer. Kidnapped Grace, Ava's sister, to force her into surrendering her power. It was a fatal mistake. The attempt was clumsy. Damien's security team, already on high alert, had been monitoring Mitch. The moment Grace was shoved into a car, they pounced. Mitch and his accomplices were arrested. Gavin was exposed as the mastermind and taken down with them. Justice prevailed. Yet Ava felt no triumph, only exhaustion. She realized peace would only come when she faced the root of all her pain. She visited her father in prison. Mitch looked decades older, hair white, eyes hollow, his arrogance gone. "Why are you here?" he rasped. Ava met his gaze. "Not for you. For the 16-year-old girl who watched her mother die alone. For the young woman who broke herself to raise her sister. I came to tell them. It's over." She drew a steady breath. "You took so much from me. But you will not take my peace. I forgive you." Mitch broke down in tears, sobbing with a grief too late to matter. Ava stood and walked away. Outside, the sunlight kissed her face. For the first time, she felt truly free. The weight she had carried for years dissolved into the air. Their wedding was not in some grand cathedral, but on the rooftop of the Future of Hospitality project, surrounded by the first students they had sponsored. Guests were close family, dear friends, and Blair Sinclair, who sent a gift with a sincere note of apology. Ava needed no one to walk her down the aisle. She walked alone, the path lined with wildflowers. When she reached Damien, she no longer saw a billionaire. She saw the man who had seen her when she was invisible. "They say our love is a fairy tale," Damien vowed, "but they're wrong. It isn't a fairy tale. It's a battle. And I wouldn't want to fight it with anyone but you." Ava's smile trembled through tears. "You saw a flower in the mud?" she replied. "But you taught me the mud doesn't drown us. It anchors our roots so we can rise." That night, under the city lights, they stood side by side. Ava was no longer the janitor dreaming of another life. She was living the life she had built with her own hands. She had walked through mud, through storms, and now stood tall. Roots. Deep, unshakable, ready for anything the future would bring. Because true strength is not never falling. It is rising, every time stronger, brighter, and more radiant than before. Ava Hayes' story isn't just a love story. It's an anthem to the hidden strength within each of us. It reminds us that a person's worth isn't defined by where they start, but by the resilience and compassion they carry in their heart. Which moment touched your heart the most? Was it when she stood alone before the board of directors? Or was it when she forgave her father in prison? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I can't wait to read them all. Here at HH Dramatic Stories, we believe that every dramatic story carries a powerful lesson, and Ava's journey teaches us this. Never underestimate someone who is fighting their battles in silence. If you want to keep immersing yourself in stories as dramatic, profound, and meaningful as this one, help fuel our journey by hitting the like button if you believe Ava truly deserves this happiness, and smashing that big red subscribe button to officially join the HH Dramatic Stories family. Don't forget to hit the notification bell so you won't miss any of the twists and turns coming your way. Thank you for being with us. HH Dramatic Stories loves you all. See you next time.